All right, thanks for staying with us, everyone. Now to the United Nations General Assembly, where Nigeria has joined the growing list of countries calling for a two-state solution as a path to lasting peace between Israel and Palestine. Speaking at the 80th United Nations General Assembly, Vice President Kashim Shettima described the ongoing crisis in Gaza as a humanitarian catastrophe, urging world leaders to uphold the dignity and freedom of Palestinians. Shettima said Palestinians are not collateral damage, but human beings entitled to the same rights as others. He linked Nigeria's stance to his own bitter experience with terrorism, stressing that violence must never be rewarded with silence. While 157 UN member states now recognize Palestine, Nigeria has not yet formally done so. Still, the country says peace, not politics, must guide the global response to the Middle East crisis. Now, joining me to discuss this is former Commissioner Multilateral Relations, Abuja Office, Delta State Government. She's a consultant development strategist, communications and international engagement to the senator representing Delta North, Senator Ned Nwoko. We'll be speaking with Gloria Okolugbo. Good to have you join us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are in New York, you've been at the UNGA this year, and you've been following the conversations there. And as you listened to African leaders, especially Nigeria, Nigeria's president, through the vice president speak, what did you make of the address?
Oh, it's been a remarkable UNGA, as we have come to call it this year, because the speech of the vice president and indeed Nigerian president through the vice president was a remarkable departure from the usual appeal to a kind of pace-setting, we will call it a pace-setting pitch, in which he made very, very pointed points that, if considered otherwise, would place a lot of moral burden on the United Nations. So the speech this year was so unique. It was an international relations expert's delight to watch Nigeria well positioned and demanding from the United Nations the most important factor that we have always talked about, the permanent seat on the Security Council. The importance of having a voice among the Committee of Nations cannot be overemphasized. And so the vice president came with the best approach. He had a three-pronged approach. He came from a realistic point of view, and then he delved into our peacekeeping history, and also talked about the demographics of the day, which is the issue of multilateralism. And, furthermore went on to build confidence by boldly addressing the economic reforms in our country and leveraging on it as a diplomatic negotiation tool to say we are doing something, and because we are doing something, he then goes on to advocate for the South, for the emerging economies, and for a structured system of sovereign debt relief. So it touched on almost everything that is important to us as a people with dignity, and demanding morally that the moral compass of the world should deliver what is right to us. So it was a delight listening to the position of Nigeria this year. Nigeria is strategically positioned at a time like this because it has become a different demographics. And if the United Nations is wise to leverage on the timing and be conscious of the multilateral nature of the world, then it is time to actually make these reforms that are overdue.
Is there a sense that the UNGA this year also had a bit of more impact, maybe just with the 157 countries recognizing the Palestine state, and then we also saw the walkout of the Israeli prime minister? I mean, there was just a lot, going on this year. There is a sense that it felt like the UNGA this year had some level of direction when you compare to other years.
Oh, yes, you're completely right, because the issue of Palestine had to be on the table because the sadness of what is going on in Gaza had to be addressed. And Nigeria's positioning is still non-aligned, and that's a mature positioning. At the same time, Nigeria has expressed the importance of having the the two-state solution. The two-state solution is the only solution that can be on the table, because Palestine cannot continue to be stateless. There can't be any form of resolution if Palestine continues to be stateless. So it was a very pointed UNGA so far, and the impact of the positioning of the world, and the commitments made to the fact that the world has actually changed. The reality is that the world has actually changed, and it's important for the structures to change too, to deliver change to the emerging economies. And Nigeria has been a leading voice in that regard.
So there are two schools of thought or two reactions to that part of the speech by the Vice President. Some people believe that we should have just stayed with our principle of neutrality and not even mention the Palestine two-state solution at all. Others say that we did not make enough statement, that perhaps we should have gone on to recognize a Palestine state. I mean, what school of thought, do you support?
It's not about what I support. It's about what is proper that Nigeria has done. The positioning of Nigeria is, don't forget, Nigeria seeks a seat on as a permanent seat in the Security Council. And it's important to establish credibility, the ability to take the right decisions, sometimes difficult decisions, the right decisions at the right time, especially if Nigeria happens to be in a position to use a veto. So the fact that Nigeria could make a statement that is, that captures the reality of the human suffering and the fact that it has to stop, and at the same time propose the two-state solution and emphasize on the fact that the program has to end, so it's a significant position that creates credibility for Nigeria. That's important. And at the same time, Nigeria has said to the world, look at our history, look at our peacekeeping history. We want to be part of the process, because we indeed have been part of the process. Don't forget, the other countries in the West and the more developed economies want to see that when it matters most, that a country has the ability to put the boots on the ground and not just make the noise. And Nigeria has actually been putting the boots on the ground. It has done that historically for a very long time. And so Nigeria has the moral credibility to demand and be ahead of placing this demand. So for us, it was a very wonderful position for Nigeria and a very mature position for Nigeria to make.
But would it make any impact for the countries that are calling for a two-state solution? Would it make any impact without necessarily recognizing Palestine state and then, going on to normalize ties with Palestine?
Yes, Nigeria has said that Palestine can't remain stateless. And that is why Nigeria has said the two-state solution is the best. And that is taking a position. It's not, the neutrality makes it difficult to offer solution. It's it's kind of escapist to continue to say that it should be neutral. So Nigeria has become bold. Nigeria has made a bold statement. And in making the bold statement, Nigeria has made a rational statement, because Palestine continuing to be stateless. What do you do with the people? You want to wipe away the people? It's not, it's a moral burden on the world. The suffering, the human suffering in Gaza. Nigeria has made a commitment by its statement. It's made a commitment to human rights, as well as consideration for multilateralism. As well as consideration for multilateralism, and then showing that it has the ability to go on ahead and take the difficult situations. The difficult decisions. So that's where we are, and it's been a very impactful outing. And the Vice President didn't end at that. After the speeches, the negotiations, and you found that he had a meeting with the Security Council chair, and the lobbying at the top level, went on. He also had meetings with. He also was part of a panel of the Financial Times, and he was also in a meeting with the United Kingdom top level officials. So there was a very good outing, so to speak.
So Let's look at the
Nigerians should be proud of.
So let's look at the flip side of it, which is Nigeria calling for a permanent seat or asking for a permanent seat at the UNSC, that's United Nations Security Council. This is not the first time President Bola Tinubu has been echoing that almost since he took office. But I mean, in terms of just global stature, what's your assessment? You've talked about peacekeeping involvement around the world, but some people would say, look, we do not even have a continental presence. Our leadership on the continent is quite poor. There are those who have said since the days of Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, where we really had a strong showing globally, that it's been on the decline. Right now, what's your assessment of our global stature?
Well, globally, the Vice President actually pointed out the fact that there's been global decline economically. There's been post-COVID energy crisis and, inflation. It's been a global thing, and you have found a lot of issues all around the world. But the economic dynamics are important to nations. The fact that you're doing something about your economic situation that is to lead to sustainability is very important to the world. Nigeria doesn't hide the fact of the difficult decisions that have had to be taken at home. Nigeria didn't go there to pretend to say that it was Uhuru. But Nigeria made the point of the fact that with these economic difficult decisions, the decisions that are supposed to lead to the stability of the Naira, the decisions leading up to the economic reforms that are being made, the fuel subsidy, that was a major drain in the economy, the difficult decision to remove that from the table, and the fact that we are on a path and on a trajectory that is agreed by every economist out there, that is a sustainable one for us to build on. Now, Nigeria leveraged on those reforms, to have diplomatic discussions that are for real, that are speaking to the issues and saying, yes, we want a more structured approach to sovereign debt relief. Debt relief, especially when nations get into problems, debt relief is handled so haphazardly, nation to nation. Nigeria is calling now for a structure that can be determined, that can be, that can be looked at on its merit, and you can predict. That way, when, economic balance and growth can come to the less developed economies or the emerging economies. So everything that is important was actually put on the table. And the fact that Nigeria made commitments to multilateralism is very important, because the recognition that it's important to work together, to build the world together, and the voice on the table now, or the demands for it. The president has been speaking about it since he came, and this presentation shows that he was not just speaking about it, he was working towards it. And he has worked towards it for 2 years, and it has shown in our attitude and our presentation and our disposition and how we are seen on the floor of UNGA, and our ability to articulate our issues before the world. And I think we should be proud of where we're going to, and there's hope where we're going to. And it's not just the executive arm. I will also make bold to say that I'm here because the Senate approved for the first time. There's been the first time that the Senate approved a side event to address an African problem on the wings of UNGA. So Nigeria is actually sitting on a very good trajectory among the Committee of Nations.
And I will come back to that event in just a moment by the Senate, but I wanted to talk again about Nigeria's standing. Beyond just our population, which a lot of people say is our leverage, or we're the most populous black nation in the world, and we use that a lot. But some say, look, if South Africa, for example, were to also vie for the same position at the UNSC, or Egypt, or a country like Kenya also gave a very strong showing. They're pushing on the continent as well. There's Algeria, but especially Egypt and South Africa. Some people believe that if they also push for a seat, that Nigeria would not be able to stand against those countries.
there are different points that each nation leverages on. And Nigeria is in a good position to understand its strength and has made its position based on that. Let's remember that our population has never been anything that anybody can overlook because of the, the importance of the population. Aside the population, the stability that Nigeria represents in the West African zone means a lot. Don't forget that the issues of instability in West Africa, and you have the Nigerian situation where we have the most populous state, and then we are a stabilizing nation, a stabilizing state right here with our population. We do not say that we don't have our problems, but we are working on our problems. And we have a way. It's not, we have had situations where they will say Nigeria is at the brink of collapse, Nigeria is going to self-destruct, and it's been very, difficult times. But Nigeria has enjoyed a kind of stability because we are a people that are founded on very solid, calculated ideas. We are educated people, and we look at things properly, when we look at ourselves in the Committee of Nations. And again, let me come back to the history. That's the reality. And I come back to the history. We have always had boots on the ground for peacekeeping for years. And so that shows capacity. That shows military capacity that nobody all over the world can gloss over. You don't have that record in South Africa. You don't have that record in Egypt. So I beg to say Nigeria stands in a better position of demanding and speaking to the morality of the world to say, yes, at a time like this, it's about the timing, and it's about leveraging on the timing, and it's about leveraging on what we bring to the table. So I think that's it. Those are the major points there.
An interesting, very interesting point you made there, especially on the having boots on the ground always and being the big brother for other countries on the continent. But let's get back to the events you were talking about. Just give us more light, or shed more light on that event. What is it about? You talked about the Senate having events on the sideline.
Yeah, the Senate Committee on Reparations and Repatriation is chaired by the distinguished Senator Ned Nwoko, has put together a side event on the wings of UNGA. And we took cognizance of the fact that the 12th of September is a significant day for reparations and colonization. And we also, as a first time of any Senate to come and have a program here in the African Hall, we're demanding that the colonizers of African countries should make a public apology and acknowledgement of the drawbacks that colonization has cost African countries, people of African descent, and the suffering that continues to be manifest. The nations that were reparations were considered, Japan, China, but Nigeria, African countries are set to move on. For the first time, we have the approval of the Senate President, who knowledgeably, let me not say magnanimously, saw the importance of the program, and upon the moving of a motion on the floor of the House, created this committee chaired by distinguished Senator Ned. And this committee is having its own plenary sessions on the 14th of October, so that we can draw good attention to the issues. We're going to have delegates from African group of the United Nations. We're having delegates from the CARICOM group. And we're also having delegates from all around the critical stakeholders. And we're putting this together as a second tier, a second phase of having met at the African level, met the ambassadors from the different nations. And thereafter, the distinguished senator, who is an international figure known to hold the world to account, intends to proceed to court, the international court, to see that Nigeria and African countries and people of African descent get their justice.
And what does justice look like? Perhaps, again, just before you even answer, perhaps a membership seat, that permanent seat at the UNGA, because it's again another injustice not to have any African country on the United Nations Security Council. Yes. Perhaps that's one of the ways to right the wrong. But what would justice look like in terms of reparations?
Justice will begin with an apology. Thereafter, justice will mean institutional ways of addressing the fallouts of these issues. Justice will mean not approaching the issues like it's charity, but realizing that indeed the effects of colonialism and neo-colonialism continue to cause suffering in the areas of migration, the areas of repatriation. The committee is about repatriation and the committee is about reparations and repatriation. We're also talking about our artifacts. This administration has already done a lot when it comes to demands and recovering of a number of artifacts that are scattered all around the world. So it's a kind of, we are demanding a structured approach where reparations are given and repatriation of everything from our human to our resources, to even the funds, the slush funds that we have everywhere, all around the world, related to our crude, our stolen crude. You can't buy. There's an embargo on stolen diamond all over the world, but stolen crude from Nigeria continues to cross to places, and the funds are hidden all over the world. So we are demanding for the first time in a concerted way our rights.
Absolutely, and
for the world.
We'll stay with you. We'll continue to follow up with you and everyone who is involved in this from the Nigerian angle on this conversation. You said October 12th or October 14th. I'm sure we'll have this conversation. We'll have this conversation with you again. Thank you so much for your time, Commissioner, former Commissioner of Multilateral Relations, Abuja Office, Delta State Government, and Consultant Development Strategies, Communications and International Engagement to the Senator representing Delta North, Senator Ned Nwoko. Gloria, Okolugbo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's Standpoint this week. Remember, you can watch the repeat broadcast at 11 p.m. tonight and 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. Thanks for watching. I am Precious. Bye-bye.